okay, I I don't need more movies coming at my trauma like that, alright?
If two strangers walk by each other in the street and their clothes accidentally brush, it means there have been 8,000 layers of inyan between them.
And today we have Past Lives. Past Lives is another film in a long line of great films that are published by A24. A24, I don't think... Do they really have misses? I mean, some of the films they publish are better than others, but I don't think I've ever watched an A24 film and been like, eh. Alright, before we get into it, Past Lives is directed by Celine Song. Bravo, ma'am. Ooh, do I want you to make more? Keep going, keep going. This is her directorial debut. Why are there so many great directors out there? It's like they just, oh, here's my first technical feature film, and just a banger. And this is just an emotional banger. Granted, her IMDb also did say that she's been a writer for some episodes of Wheel of Time on, Amazon Prime? It's a show that I saw a few trailers for. Didn't necessarily pique my interest, but if the writing is as good as this, then I mean, our leads. First of all, Greta Lee, 3 leads, but all of them deserve a round of applause because you can see me, I'm a bumbling mess. I'm at a loss for words here. Fun fact, so I didn't really recognize her from anything, like immediately or otherwise, but large filmography. So it said she's been in some episodes of Russian Doll, which I hear is supposed to be good. Another one of those Natasha Lyonne. Here's the crazy thing. I just saw Across the Spider-Verse. So the lead star of Past Lives, she was the voice of Lila, the AI from Across the Spider-Verse. The whole come on.
Lila, can you please,
Nah, you gotta say it first.
Call for backup.
What?
Call for backup.
Come on.
Please just call for...
Yeah, I already called her.
So that was cool to see. The other actor, fun fact about this, Teo Yu. Teo Yu is the other lead star of this, the childhood love interest come around again. I didn't recognize him, but in a movie I covered previously, Decision to Leave, which was a foreign Korean film, he played Director Lee, who I think was the main character's boss when he was in the police force. And also we have John Magaro. I like this guy. He's also been in a lot of stuff, but I immediately always recognize him as the love interest in Orange is the New Black, the guy that's, the gal that's a little bit unhinged in prison, but he was also in Overlord. And Overlord is a fun, underrated, bloody, gory, Nazi-killing, fun military film. That's also a good one. So I didn't really have any notes for this one going into it, so I'm just kind of speaking from the heart here. But I will say, if you have a chance to see this, and I'm very biased because I like very human films with characters that aren't necessarily, you never really know if they're making the right calls, but it's always questioning matters of the heart and love and life and all this. I always recommend seeing these films, but I recommend seeing this one. I like it when the year of film is balanced out from everything from hard action adventure to slower but still vitally important films like this. If you don't know, the whole thing is it's a non-linear film, but we cut back and forth between where she is right now, but also into her past, and she had a childhood crush, but she and her family immigrated to the United States, and her old childhood friend stayed where he was and went down his path, and she just basically moved with her family for a brighter, better future. And you know what? She did all the brighter, better things, and she ended up finding some success in her own way from writing and eventually moving to New York and all this stuff. Fast forward further in time, and again, you're at a point now where what the film's trailer is showing, which is that now they're full-grown adults, and this man shows back up just to basically say hi and reconnect, as they haven't seen each other in person in years and years. Therein is where this weird love-ish triangle of sorts comes into play. Not in a very toxic, drama-filled manner, mind you, but in a complicated matters of the heart kind of matter. The positives for this film, first of all, the performances. Ooh, chef's kiss. What I love in a film like this you don't have a lot of overly expository dialogue. You have your dialogue that communicates how people are feeling and communicating to each other. But what I love about this film, it's the nuance with these characters. It's the nuance. It's the way they are when they're alone versus when they're with each other. It's the looks they give, the look in their eye and their face, the minor reaction, the major reactions, the obvious stuff in conversation, or the minor stuff are reacting to the scenario. That's how I know these are all great actors, is they embody these characters and play that subtlety of human emotion, that spectrum of human emotion, that we are inherently, both obvious but also nuanced and varied in that way. And these actors all bring that forth to the film to its betterment in every positive sense of the term. The direction, it's best way I can describe it is it's simple but effective. I mean, there's a lot of really nice shots in terms of framing and composition, and whenever there's characters on screen, or the director's trying to show you where a person is or what's going on in the environment. What I particularly enjoyed was the setup for certain scenes, and it's these simple, beautiful shots where a guy checks into a hotel, so you're like outside first, and there's like a rain puddle, and it's dreary skies and the rain's trickling down, reflections of cars passing by. It's kind of akin to the way that like Stieg Larsson writes the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books, or how Haruki Murakami writes any of his books. It's somehow you're able to take the mundane and somehow make it both interesting but also beautiful and artistic in a way. And I know what you're thinking. Old movie man here, he loves to romanticize film and everything involved in film. Guilty as charged. I heavily romanticize the simplest of things, which anybody can do if they like it enough. But I think it really stands out in this film, whether it's a long shot of a carousel's lights shutting down for the night to signify the end of a day, and the shift of characters and their where they are, like emotionally or otherwise. The direction in this film is I hesitate to use the word masterful, but very skilled. Like just what she was trying to do for this film came across beautifully, and the composition of her shots and how it's filmed. I'm getting carried away on this one aspect of it alone, but cinematography's great, acting's great, the story,
Confession time, here's what I got.
And I'm sure, honestly, a lot of adults can relate to this, but what's really cool about this film is it explores this Korean concept of Inyon, but it's this concept which is fascinating from a guy like me who, do I directly believe in like reincarnation or multiple lives? I don't know, but I do recognize, as I've said before, anything is possible, right? And this concept of Inyon is basically saying people that we meet in our life, there's deeper connections there. You can meet your soulmate and marry them in this life. And maybe in past lives you were close friends, or you were, back in medieval times, you were a knight and she was the fair lady, and you were destined to be but could never be, or something like that. But there's also the reverse of that, which is that what if this life we're not together, but that's because in the future we are, and like this, but we're in close proximity now. It's just a really cool concept that teeters on the brink of science fiction, but it's interesting because we've all met that person who you just kind of feel it in your gut or your head or your heart, somewhere you feel it, where you're just, I feel like I know you, or like there's a certain kinship or brother or sisterhood, just a connection you find to people, and you just feel like you've known this person at some point, either in this life or a different time. But also there's the heartbreak that comes in that. I don't know about you guys, but I can personally relate to this film in a very emotional, empathetic way, because due to decisions that I've made, how life ended up panning out, there's at least one person in particular that, I imagine that if I had ended up with them, then perhaps it would have gone very pleasantly, would have gone very well. That could have been, I felt that sense of like connection, or at least I do now anyway, and I'm trying to move past it because circumstances are as they are, and that person is with somebody else in a very happy, committed relationship. And respect that, and you got to move on, understand that you can't hold on to regret in life, and try to live forward. But seeing a film bring that with this triangle of people, where it's literally a woman who's, I have my husband and all this, and are we married for the right reasons? Probably, but there's some doubt there. In this movie, there's some doubt. And then this old flame, this person from your past who you had that connection with, kind of resurfaces, and it causes you to question things. It's like, did you make the right call? How do you feel about it now? You You have to make your peace with it. I discussed it a little bit when I reviewed Worst Person in the World, because that was the extreme opposite end of the spectrum, where it was somebody who fell in love and then met somebody else and fell out of love and just like shut that relationship down to go follow her heart and be with this person. And I like films like this that show you, I mean, we're all inherently flawed, very human characters, and stuff like that. It happens. You fall in love, you fall out of love, you make mistakes, you meet different people, you go up. There's ups and downs to life, ebbs and flows, and films like this show that. And I'm glad that it's destigmatizing that discussion, that talk about it. I'm not saying go commit infidelity, obviously no, but these are conversations you have to have both with your partner, with the other potential partner, and more importantly with yourself. These are matters of the heart, and I'm glad that there's films out there that are telling more people like, hey, you know, we're not trying to break apart the world here, but this stuff happens. Perfectly normal for it to happen, in this reporter's humble opinion. It's a human fact of life. It's how it is. This is a messy, human, flawed life, and we're just trying to live in it and enjoy it. Anyway, off my soapbox real quick there. This film really just, it lets the characters act and speak for themselves, and there's some really good conversations, there's some great bits of dialogue. I do have a couple like minor gripes. I think the only complaints that I had were, and this is more of like, if I had to really nitpick, you know, like there's some mild pacing issues in the first act, very, very mild, but it's not enough to detract from the film too heavily. I honestly want to see this movie again because I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't sure how to feel. I could barely find any flaws in this film, honestly. Maybe some people won't like how it ends, or maybe some people will, or just the bittersweet nature of the narrative in general might be endearing to people. Find that one scene toward the end where they're just waiting on your Uber. The fact that this film has so many moments that let the characters in the scene marinate, and it works. Other films try it, and you're just like looking at your watch, like, oh my god, how long are we going to drag this out? Some of these scenes are just a quiet scene, and just how two people are with each other, the awkward movements and the glances and their character. It tugs at the heart. You're just like, if you've been there, then you'll feel it. You're just, oh my god. It's a really nice, I think, hour 30, hour 40, I think it's like hour 45, intimate human story about three people, and the concept of connection and what it means to feel a connection to somebody. Maybe in a future life we know each other better, maybe in a past life we knew each other better, maybe this is the only life and it just is what it is. It was nice, and it was simple in its premise, and yet emotionally it was complicated, complex, layered, and just you're going for the performance and for the story of the heart here, and that's why I'd recommend it. It's not going to be a film for everybody. I know that, you know, will your average movie-going audience and member enjoy this? Kind of up in the air. Did people like it? Hang on a second. And audiences liked it too. Yeah, for the people that reviewed it so far. But yeah, near perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes, 97%, and overall low 90% percentile for audiences. So just about anybody who's watched this film ends up enjoying it or loving it all out. Hard recommend. I might have to change my review for this film. I'm at this weird opposite crossroads as opposed to what I'm normally at. The quality of the film almost outweighs my enjoyment of it because I can recognize it for what it is. This is a damn near perfect film. I don't adore the film, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna go watch it a second time in a couple days to like really let it marinate and share it with people who haven't seen it yet. But it just hits, and I think that upon a second viewing it'll hit just as hard, if not harder. So I gotta be real. I don't really have much in the way of complaints. There's not really anything I believe this film did wrong aside from some very, very, very mild pacing issues. That's about it, and that's part of it. Is the film's not supposed to rush by. You're supposed to marinate with the characters in this film. I might be tempted to change the review after a second watch, but Past Lives I would give a low 5 out of 5 for. A low 5 out of 5. This is less a 5 out of 5 in the sense of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and more a 5 out of 5 as when I reviewed Pig. It's very heavy stuff, a lot to get into, but if you get a chance to check out Past Lives in theaters, if you're like a romance drama such as this, or if the trailer intrigues you at all, hard recommend. Go experience it in cinemas. If you don't get a chance to catch it, definitely see it and stream it when it comes out. One of my favorites this year. I don't know if it's going to make the top 10, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. That's all I got to say about Past Lives. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode or whatever, heartbreaking film I review next. and goodbye, travelers.